Piers Morgan branded the BBC's investigation shambolic after Hugh Edwards' wife confirmed her husband was the BBC presenter facing allegations over payments for sexually explicit images. Piers discussed the latest developments with his studio guests Douglas Murray, MP Louise Mensch and Kevin O'Leary during Wednesday night's Uncensored. He also chatted with producer David Elstein and former BBC political correspondent Carol Walker via video link. However, after speaking with Carol, Piers shared his thoughts on how the BBC have carried out their investigation. Carol praised the BBC, telling Piers, "I actually think that the BBC has done a pretty good job of reporting a story which is about one of its own very senior presenters. I think anyone who has watched the BBC coverage over the past few days must really accept and acknowledge that they've managed to treat this as another story. I have worked at the BBC when there are stories about the BBC, I know how difficult it is. But I know that it's also a point of pride for the BBC, that its journalists are trying to set aside the fact that it is one of their own that they're talking about and to treat business as another news story." Carol continued, "I think Tim Davie himself, the Director General, has acknowledged that perhaps they need to look again at their complaints process and the procedures when a complaint against a senior figure is a red flag for something that's very serious. I think there are perhaps some legitimate questions about whether they moved swiftly enough." Piers disagreed with his Talk TV guest, telling her the BBC is ridiculous. The host stated, "I don't think there'll be many complaints at this severity against the place of BBC News. But I still think it's ridiculous the BBC in 7 weeks after this was reported to them by the family directly about their concern about what was happening. That it took 7 weeks and just one standard email and one phone call that didn't get connected, that was their attempt to following up what was obviously on the face of it, potentially extremely serious charges, as indeed Tim Davie, the Director General of BBC, has conceded they were." The Metropolitan Police have said there are no criminal charges against Hugh and confirmed there's no evidence of criminality. Piers added, "I wouldn't necessarily go along with your defense of the way the BBC handled it, I should think has been a little bit shambolic." Carol was quick to point out that the teenager at the center of the first allegation made against Hugh had shut down the claims, branding them as rubbish. The host claimed he didn't have any inside knowledge of what the Sun had reported before urging the teenager to go on to his program Uncensored to chat about the allegations. Piers Morgan Uncensored airs weekdays at 8 p.m. on Talk TV.